it's nicer with the pillows.
It's so cute,
It's so cozy.
right? Yeah, it's like, that's how it's supposed to be. So, shall I start?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready?
Okay.
I'm ready. Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of the Shia Vibe podcast. I'm beyond thrilled that you're tuning in. And today I do have another podcast guest. I'm beyond thrilled. She was already on. It's actually, wow, wait, she was my first podcast guest, and also she's the first one I'm interviewing for the second time.
Oh my God. I feel honored.
Oh, this is so amazing. And as you can see, we are literally in our living room. We're in Barcelona. We're living together. She's my roommate. It's Sanne. Welcome.
Ooh, thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you. Welcome in my own home.
Welcome to your own home. How do you like it? Actually, it's like super cool. So I think, wait, I will turn towards you because that makes most sense. So I think the cool thing is actually how we met in Spain, and now we're living together in Spain. And this is super cool because I feel like a lot of people think that we actually know each other, like, or we have known each other super well. I mean, I would say we do know each other super well, but we did not actually see us in real life a lot before all this happens, right?
Yeah, it was, I think, a year ago. No, 1.5 years ago, something like this. So we met each other first at like a bodybuilding competition due to mutual friends of ours. And we like immediately hit it off.
Yeah.
And then I think, which was very coincidental because this was in Alicante. Mm-hmm. And then the weekend after, you were coming to Valencia, where I was living.
Yeah.
So we decided to meet up again. And like, I think the first time we met there, we like spent like the whole day together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like it was so long and we did so much. Oh my God. And then we decided to like meet for another time. I think a second time back then. Yeah, true. Yeah. Because then I had to leave later. But so the thing is, we literally met twice. We met twice in real life, and that's kind of when we hit it off. And then I think from then, like after that, we would like call every, I don't know what it was, like we tried every second week, every third week, we made it for sure. Yeah. And so I think we are like the perfect example for friendships that can grow even though you're not actually spending time together. And because that is something that like I talk a lot to, like especially like older generations, like my parents, who are like convinced that you need to be like together in real life. Of course, like it can't be taken away, but like to actually like grow something or whatever. And I feel like we're like quite proving that the opposite is the truth.
But like we called a lot. I think without that, like it can't really grow because through text it's different, of course.
Oh no.
And we're both like super open.
Yeah.
So when we called, like we just share everything and we were like helping each other with like things we ran into. So you get to know each other also pretty quickly. So I think that also helps.
No, for sure. And I think these days, to be honest, like even with FaceTime, you kind of do have this life element of like seeing each other. And I feel like this also makes a huge difference if you like get to actually see each other and like talk, and then you do build a relationship because you do have this visual aspect. Yeah. And I think for women, like we are very talkative. So, and what I really loved was like, because I usually didn't do that before I met you, but like you were super consistent with like, oh, let's already define the next date when we call. And like, I love this, right? I'm such an organized person, so I love planning ahead. And you kind of were the same. And so that way we made sure we would actually always have these calls. And then whenever like the day rolled around, I was like, oh, nice, today I'm going to talk to Sanne. So, and then like, I don't know, like we always had like so much to share. And that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's also important. Like when you aren't close to each other and you like physically close to each other, you kind of have to make sure you plan these dates. So I think I do this with all my friends. Like when we meet, like, or when we talk, we plan the next day already. That really helps.
That's so good. Yeah. I really need to start doing that with like all my people as well, because I feel like then you kind of have this like, you kind of also don't have it constantly present to like, oh, I need to like, I want to see this friend. And then you exactly know in these days, it's like, it's not like, hey, I think about you. Can you call? Yes, today. Yeah. Nobody can call today. So it's like, yes, in 2 weeks. Yeah. Like I'm busy in 2 weeks. I have plans. And so this is how it is these days. And so that's really smart. And then like this idea came up with Spain because I had to like, it decided to stay in Europe. after I went to Switzerland. And it was like, first it was like, yeah, let's do 1 month. And suddenly it was like, oh, let's do 3 months. And so that's what we're doing now. We're doing 3 months. And it's...
we're 1 month in.
We're 1 month in, yeah. So what's your... what's your wrap up? It's so terrible. I want to go home.
I hate living with you. It's so boring.
If there is one thing it's not boring.
I think, like, we haven't told what the topic is, right? But I think also regarding the topic, it's also perfect living together.
Yeah.
Because, wait, maybe first we need to introduce the topic and then...
So here's the thing. Since we're two females, right? We talk a lot, and we talk a lot about like emotions, of course, and all different kind of emotions. And I think the cool thing is that we're both coaches. So you're coaching on like more on the mindset kind of stuff. I coach more like on the physical kind of stuff. But eventually, I think we do bring a certain level of like reflectiveness to like from our personalities, and this is like amazing to like live together, because I feel like we can pretty like mirror ourselves like pretty well, and like also the counterpart. And so this is like really, really cool. I feel like this is like a time of a lot of growth and a time of a lot of talk through that. And so this is why the idea came up, to eventually talk about like all things like emotion, and especially also perfectionism, because this is something that you kind of specialize in with your coaching, and I am probably your best client because
I'm just coaching her for free.
Yeah, for sure.
And she's coaching me for free.
It's amazing. It's really good. But yeah, I feel like this really helps. And so I thought like this could be like valuable, but also just be like, is like a topic of interest also to us. And so.
And I also really feel like, because I used to struggle a lot with perfectionism, and also like in social settings or with friends even, that I was constantly like trying to prove myself or didn't feel good enough. And I've also really noticed like in our friendship, there's like room for everything. Yeah. So that's also super nice living together. Like both of us are kind of like very ADHD and like a little bit weird.
Very.
But like, I think like emotion wise, both of us aren't afraid to like show what's there. And we just help each other with it, and also just being ourselves, even though we're kind of like weird sometimes. Yeah. It's just like we let each other be that. So I think that's also really nice, and that's also maybe, well, probably why I think this is a really good topic to talk about, because we actually experience this with each other also.
Yeah, for
how
sure.
It can be
like in that way. And also I think we can also share a lot from like our like professional experience, and it's like so I feel like it also helps, because I think whatever helps me grow as a person helps me like grow as a coach. And so this is like, it's kind of super cool, because it helps like all areas of our life. And it's like, it's super cool, like just like the whole situation with everything. And we are super talkative. But what I like is, for example, that you like, I could tell that like where you kind of coming from in terms of that, because of the kind of question that you ask. And I love this, because like the quality of questions determines the quality of your life. This is something that is a quote that I'm like, that stuck with me, like one of those. And you're really good in asking questions, and you don't let me off the hook. It's like you're like why are you feeling this way? And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, but like, why? What was the thing that you didn't want to say just now? And I was like, damn it.
Yeah, you're not getting away.
I'm not getting away. But the cool thing is, really, I never feel judged. And I think this is like something is super important, and like not everyone has in like all the relationships. And I, for example, I know I'm like judgy with like some stuff. I'm a Virgo. Oh, that bitch finds excuses. No, but like not with like friends and like how they handle situations and everything. And so I think we can like share like a lot around that. But you also work with a lot of like females when it comes to perfectionism.
Yeah.
And like, how do they approach you? Do they already know like I suffer from perfectionism, or is it something that like usually comes up because our today's crazy world is wired like this? And literally, I would say like most females in the like Western world, we suffer from that kind of pressure.
Yeah. I think most people that come to me don't use the word perfectionism right away, but it's more this pressure they constantly feel. Like this pressure of not being good enough, constantly having to prove themselves, having trouble communicating their boundaries, for example. And they feel this constant pressure to do well, to not make mistakes, and it's like weighing down on them. And what I often also see, like, there's kind of two camps in this. There's a group of people that are very obsessive with food and with training, for example, because when they're not, or when they take a rest day, or when they their diet isn't perfect, it like overloads them with self-criticism, and they feel like they did it wrong and they're wrong. And there's this other group, and I kind of been in both, where they know they want to change and they know they want to take better care of themselves, and they sometimes get this plan or they get this motivation and they start working on it, and then the moment something fails, they're like, oh no, I can do this, like everything is like messed up. And both of these can be or are often rooted in perfectionism. It's just a different way of handling it. And what I found in my life, sometimes it results in one thing, like being overly obsessive with something, being really strict on myself, and the other time it's more procrastination, like not being able to do stuff, or like when it doesn't go perfect, quitting, for example, or not even taking the risk or not taking the chance because I'm afraid to not be able to do it. But I feel like, and I still struggle with these things sometimes. I think that's not a bad thing. We like often when we have these negative patterns, or like these patterns that get in the way, even when we solve most of it, they can come up sometimes. But now I feel like I have a lot more control. Well, not even control. Like I can see it and I can move past it more.
Do you feel like it's something that comes up more for women than for men?
I think of what I've seen, I would say yes. And that's also, I think, because women often focus more on how others perceive them. And I think also how, is talked to girls when they're young, where on average, I think less allowed to that's the coffee, the coffee machine. It always goes off randomly. It just cleans itself.
We're wasting so much water because of this.
It shouldn't take too long. But I think also the way like girls are raised is very different from boys. Boys are like, oh, they're just boys. Or they're just like, they're more pushed towards taking risk. And I think girls are more like, okay, you need to behave, you need to be nice, like keep your clothes like nice and stuff. They're more praised on being in line, I think, than boys. And boys are more allowed to not be that. So I think that probably also plays into it. And I think also like evolutionary probably. Like for women, it's rewarded more if you're like fit in the group and you're accepted. It's also a little bit more dangerous if you're not. So I think that are probably reasons why we tend to see this more in women.
Yeah, I totally agree with the upbringing. Like this plays a huge role, because you can tell, like you look around, you can see how, especially I would say like mothers, how they treat daughters and how they treat their sons. And very often the daughters, they get raised way more strictly, like from a very young age than like boys. I don't know what it is, because I'm not a mom myself. I don't have like either a daughter or like or a son, but it's something that like is very noticeable in our today's society. And so the society, I think this is like the other part. I feel like so we recently watched the movie Barbie, right? For the first time. We wanted to see what the hype is all about. We think it's not worth it. Whatever. So, or it's like definitely overhyped. No, but it's overhyped. It's like, what? But I really, really like this one part, and I think this was something that actually also went viral on social media, was when she says, well, women all have to be about. And so we have to be like, everything to anyone. And it's what like today's society offers, because with like we're in 2025, so you can literally be like anyone and do everything, especially with like the web opening up and whatever. So this is like maybe in what, so there's literally no excuse anymore. And I feel like this, like the hustle culture is huge. And like women, we're literally in the middle of it, because we're not just like part of the hustle culture. We're still part of the like, we are the ones who like eventually get pregnant, and we have to create families, and we have to look after these families. We are the females, so the feminine is like taking part of the collective, like taking care of it, is the communicating, caring part. And so I feel like it's very difficult. Like we have to have like children, we have to have the career, we have to be like a good mother, but then it's like it's so we have to be like everything. And this is something that's like super interesting for me, like now that I'm like dating Ray, because he's from Indonesia, right? And he has a completely different approach to life than me. So they are definitely like they're working in everything. So, but they're like, the hustle culture is something toxic, and this belongs to the Western world. And in my opinion, to be honest, it's a very healthy mindset, because I totally agree. It's like there is also a difference for like women and men when it comes to hustle, but it's huge. And women being trapped in that is very much against what like our origins, I would say. We can like work, we can like make career, we can be like lead companies and everything, but I still think that for females it's different than for men. And that results in this perfectionism, because we kind of still have to live up to expectations from men and other females. I mean, that toxicity is a society thing.
And I think it's for everybody. Like if you look back at how we used to live when we lived in like tribes, you had like a main goal, which was just survival, raising kids, like looking after food. And now there's so much pressure from so many areas on us. And we also see what could be better, because you're constantly confronted with it on social media. Like this could be your life. You could do this. Like this is not good about you. Change this. Like even like things about who you are, as what kind of friend you are. You read all these quotes and you're like, everything I do is like wrong, and I need to constantly build myself and change myself. And that also puts a lot of pressure on us. Like not just women, but I think both men and women experience this. So yeah, I think it's just society. We're not really built to like we're not really built for the society we're living in, because our brain is still so similar to how it was thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and I feel like the self-improvement, which is amazing, and it's something I think fascinates both of us, and is something that we constantly do strive for. But I feel like nowadays it has become like something you kind of have to do. And yes, you should work on yourself, but I feel like there is I don't know, like the pressure around this topic, for example, is huge. As you said, like with the quotes and everything, like social media. Oh my God, I'm so happy that I grew up in a time where there was no social media, there was no smartphone. So I kind of get to see both worlds. And nowadays, I mean, social media is huge. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem with like the whole like dopamine, because it's like there's this like that overconsumption. And then on the other hand, as I said, like the comparison, because you're never good enough. If you're on social media, you're literally never good enough. There's always someone who like looks better than you, makes more money than you, is more successful than you, has, I don't know, like has whatever you want. Like if you want a family, there are tons of like, it's crazy. And so I feel like it's really, really important. It's a big part of like self-care to like also really like stay in check with yourself, how much social media, for example, you consume. And what I feel like is something really nice for me to see was, so for example, when I went to Bali, I got in touch with a lot more people like in my space. I didn't have that before in Switzerland, but like people in the coaching space. And, you know, everything looks so nice from outside, from social media, because everyone is promoting only like the successes and all the good things. And this was actually when I learned so much about like that everyone has their downsides. Everyone has their like doubts and things that don't go well and failures. And this really helped me like not demystifying, but like getting rid of this like perfect picture and really learning about like what social media is about. And yeah,
I think that's like the big thing with social media. You just see what people want you to see. And it's never a complete image of the person. It's just like their good parts, or the parts that they see as good. And I used to find myself comparing like my whole person with all the flaws and everything to this outer image of the people on Instagram. And I see this also happening a lot with clients. And we kind of forget that everybody is imperfect. And that's actually also the nice thing about people. But we feel like we should also be perfect. And I always like to use this metaphor to make this more visual. Like most people, we put on kind of this mask. And we hide everything that we feel isn't good about us. That's definitely not the parts we're going to show on social media. And we believe that the harder I work, and this is also what perfectionism kind of is, the harder I work, the better I can hide the parts that aren't good about myself, the mistakes, the flaws, everything, the better I'm going to feel about myself, the more confident I'm going to be. But it's actually the opposite. Like the more tight you try to keep the mask on, the more you're affirming to yourself what's underneath there. Like, who you know that you are, it's not good enough. And it's not keeping the mask on and keeping it on tight so nobody sees what's underneath. It's actually taking it off, like showing your whole self. That makes you feel more confident. But in the beginning, it's scary. And it's also probably not super beneficial if you don't have the right people around you. And okay, it's still beneficial because then you're going to see who the right people are probably. But I've really noticed this also in myself. I now also share a lot more of my vulnerabilities and the things that I don't like or I struggle with on social media. But before, I didn't want to do this because it scared me. And I also did this in my own life. Like I was constantly trying to be like the perfect person, not make mistakes, and never show when I was having like negative emotions or like worrying about something. I never shared that with anybody. But I constantly felt like I wasn't good enough. And now, for example, with you, like when I worry about something or just like being weird, like we constantly do weird shit, or like randomly when we're working, like so one of us just like starts like singing or like screaming something weird.
I'm screaming, you're singing.
But it's like, it can just be there. Like, we don't judge each other for it. And that's so nice.
You're still apologizing for it. I don't even notice it. I'm just like, if it annoys me, I'm like, can you stop? Or you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't know that. And most of the times I don't even notice. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever.
But it's actually so nice when you can truly be yourself, because like, I feel like I can just be everything that I am, and I'm not judged for it. And I feel also a lot more confident in myself. And like, where I used to feel like my worth is dependent on how, like, I don't know, how much I can entertain the other person or whatever, or how much I can bring the other person. You. Now, my word is no longer dependent on my performance, but just on who I am. And the only way that I got there was by taking off the mask. So
it's daring, but it can be super scary. I think also, especially if you, for example, in the past have made the experience of like people not accepting these parts, and this, I think this is something that probably shows up the most, like, yes, in friendships, but also, to be honest, in relationships. And so there is something, I feel like because we all do, usually we have our like emotional wounds and stuff and traumas, and I think, in my opinion, you can solve a lot of that by yourself, but some parts you can only solve with your next partner.
Yeah.
And to be able to solve it, you need to have a partner who's like very like aware of that and like caring and everything, and like is ready to like do it with you together, not for you. You cannot like put or blame all these things on him or whatever. You kind of have to see like, these are my own wounds, but you like the partner should be able to help you and close it. And so this is something that I, for example, like, of course, like it comes up in like every relationship, but it's something that's like super interesting. I feel like when it comes to this, is like, how did you get treated in the past? How did someone react to these parts of you in the past? And so one topic that like comes up for like me, and I know for a lot of like women, is something that I have to deal with, is that I was always too much, or eventually not enough. It was actually both, right?
Yeah.
So you're too emotional, you're too loud, you're, in my opinion, you work too much, you're doing too much, you're I don't know, like bodybuilding is too much, and it's like never enough, and eventually it's never enough, or it's too much, and then eventually you're not. It's like super conflicted.
Yeah.
And so this is like something that I feel like comes up a lot for like women, like in relationships, or like maybe even from like childhood and stuff, and we carry that you're too much through our whole life. And I feel like this is also something that like kind of can end in like perfectionism. You try to be like the perfect daughter, you try to be the perfect employee, the perfect girlfriend, when this is actually a mask, because no one is perfect. And you found the right people when they allow you, or like even want you to take off the mask. This is something that you said very beautifully the other day, when you were like, this and that person wants me to take off my mask because they want to see like the real me. And I think this is the freaking goal for like each friendship, for how you should measure your family, your partner. That's like 1000% for sure. Does this person want to see like the real me and all of me, and like can like love me through like all of that because he loves my, or she loves my true essence, or just like an image they have of us, or like a version they like of us. Right?
Yeah, and I think like you said, it usually also starts when we're young. I think everybody is wearing a mask up until a certain point, or like everybody wears a little bit of a mask. Some people have it more, some people have it less, and that's normal. Like when you're born, like you're just good enough. You're not even aware of yourself. But then at one point you learn like, oh, I'm actually not good enough. I need to be a certain way to get love, or to get appreciation, to get whatever. And when that's really strong, when you feel like, oh, I have to, that's, for example, the case often with perfectionism. Oh, I have to perform to get compliments, for example, or to get this recognition from my parents, usually. And if I work really hard, or if I like, I don't know, get really good grades or whatever, that's when I actually get the compliments.
I'm a good girl.
Yeah, if I'm a good girl.
If I'm a good girl, right? It's like this. So be a good girl. Don't cry. Be a good girl, or whatever it is.
Just don't get like, and if you get in the way, or you're annoying, that's
just
not good.
Don't be edgy.
So you learn to like behave in a way that you think. It's not even the truth often, but you think it's gonna, because you're not very rational, like as a human, but especially not as a like 3-year-old. And you kind of take these things that you learn when you're young, like usually in the first 7 years, as sort of a blueprint for the rest of your life. If I do this, then I'm gonna get love. And if you don't become aware of that mask you put on, those beliefs that like are underneath there, you're gonna act that way the rest of your life. So understanding what's underneath there. So for me, for most people, it comes down in the core to the negative belief, I'm not good enough. There can be stuff around. So I'm not valuable enough, or I'm too loud, or it can be whatever. And we constantly try to prove the opposite of this, because we don't want to be this. Because if we believe that if people see this, they're going to leave me, they're not going to love me, they're going to judge me, whatever, which, you know, used to, when we lived in tribes, would be your death. It isn't anymore. But it still feels like it could be our death. So we constantly try to prove ourselves that we're not that. But the more we prove, like I said with the mask, the more we try to prove it, the harder we constantly run into it again. So every time you fail, or every time you're not able to make the other person feel good, or you feel like you were too much or too little or whatever, you're confronted again with the idea, oh yeah, I'm not good enough. Even though it doesn't depend on that actually, but we believe this. So it's keeping us, the more you start proving yourself, it's keeping you into the trap of feeling not good enough. So
that is wild. Yeah.
The solution is to stop proving. And that's not easy to do, because you need to kind of, first you need to kind of see what's happening, what you're doing, the beliefs that are underneath. You have to kind of understand that better before you can try to make little steps to overcome it and not prove yourself all the time. But it's scary.
Yeah,
it's scary.
And what comes up for me, like in terms of like when I think about this, is like also it sounds so easy, but I think about like, I mean, we do have different roles in our life, right? So maybe your perfectionism as an employee shows different than like your perfectionism as a mother shows different than your perfectionism as a partner, and whatever you do, right? And so I feel like it's probably like unfolding, like one layer after and like an onion, and it's like, okay, and then like something else comes up, like, okay. But it's also really interesting, like how, I don't know, I was just like asking myself, because I've been an employee for like 10 years, how ready would I have been to like be fully myself, because I knew exactly I couldn't be in that surrounding, because there were like I've worked in a very man-dominated industry, and there was not a lot of space for femininity, or so I kind of, there were like expectations, and you have to live up to these expectations, and so that certainly is a mask and is a role. But like, it's super interesting also to think about like how far is it like okay to like live up to a certain role that you just like have, and like accept these circumstances, or like would it be like the healthiest for all of us if we could like in all areas of our life 100% be ourselves, like completely unhinged.
Like if you have the possibility, then that would be the best, I think. When you feel like you can be yourself everywhere where you are. But you probably cannot always be that, because like, for example, with some people, if I would truly be myself, I would actually get judged, and you get negative feedback, and then you like close off more the next time. So some people you probably don't want to show everything. You don't want to, like, when you're sad, like, it also doesn't help when you're sad and you're working as like a salesperson, for example, that every client you come across, you're like crying, I have such a bad day. Like, so you have to sometimes.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like, I don't want to talk about it today. But like, you have to, in some cases, you have to kind of put it on the mask to like
be professional.
Yeah, not even be professional, to just get around in society. But some people never have a time where they can take it off, not even with themselves,
or their partners, or
their partner. And I think sometimes, maybe even purposely, like, I'm putting on a mask now, but it's okay, because I cannot take it off in this case, because it's either not going to help me, because this person is not going to understand, or it's going to give me negative feedback, or it's just like not what's the word for it, like, it just doesn't fit that situation. Like, sometimes it just doesn't fit the situation. You can keep it on for a little bit, and then afterwards, maybe when you're at a party, it's also not the best situation to, when you're feeling sad, for example, to take it off completely. But then afterwards, or maybe during the party, you can like ask your friend, like, I'm actually not feeling well. You want to go outside for a bit, and you can take it off for a little bit. And I think that is what it's about.
I think I heard this thing once. No, but it was like that. Like, human beings, like, it makes a lot of sense. But like, human beings were like the only species that do have the ability to put emotions and thoughts temporarily into like a drawer. Like, so for example, when like someone dies, and you still have to function. You have to function because your husband dies, you have to function still as a mother for your children. You have to organize, like, whatever, your whole life and stuff. And you don't have the space to just go fully into these emotions right now. And the bit dangerous part about this is that you still need to open that drawer again.
Yeah.
You need to take out the emotions. You need to have a look at it now, like look at it, like fully feel it and everything. And this is like, I think this is like one part of like how it allows us to to like keep having like this mask on or whatever, and just being able to function. Yeah, that just came up. I just remembered that because I found this was like super intriguing.
Yeah, I think emotions are also a really important part of being yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Allowing emotions to be there, because in the end, we often judge ourselves for the emotions we feel. I think a lot of the shame or a lot of like the self-criticism comes like as a result of certain emotions. We like jealousy, anger, like shame, whatever, like insecurities. We feel like, or fear maybe, we feel like it shouldn't be there. And we judge ourselves when we push it down. Like I had this with fear a lot. Like I had a period in my life where I had pretty, like for me it felt as pretty bad social anxiety. I felt really, really anxious before like parties and stuff, and I could sometimes even feel my body like shaking before. But I felt insecure, like I felt ashamed for this fear. So I pushed it down, I pushed it down, I pushed it down. And I never talked about it with people. But it got worse because I got scared that people would see the fear. So I like basically got fearful for the fear itself. And I believe, and I do, like, I'm not actually sure because I started to be myself more, so that fear actually went away. I think it was also just a fear for having to perform or having to be a certain person that I maybe felt like I wasn't. But I also feel like if I had communicated that fear in a moment, it would have gone away. But because I was like trying to push it down, it got worse, because it's like emotions are basically just information. They want to be seen, they want to tell us something, and that doesn't mean they're true. Like sometimes they are true because they're there, but it doesn't mean they're based on ideas that are true or on something actually gonna happen.
And we cannot control it because it's from the, like, literally from the subconscious. Emotions are not controllable. Like we think about it because we feel like we can control our thoughts, which we can to a certain extent. But I think the same goes for we are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
It's like things that like come by, and like we can still like decide whether we take it on or not. But like, as you said, like emotions are information, and it tells you a lot. Like whether, for example, I think when people are like not reflected, then for example they take an emotion and they just take it as a like just like let's say bare information, like okay, I feel like this in this and that situation, and they maybe also take it as an excuse or whatever, instead of like thinking, okay, what does this emotion tell me? Like just have a look at it and be like, try to be like neutral. I always try to try to have a neutral state and be like, okay, look at it, what does it tell me? Oh, this triggers something in me. Okay, wow, what does it trigger for me? Where does this come from? And then you can actually like not solve the emotion, but like maybe trace it back, especially if it's like, if you feel like it's an overreaction to a situation, and sometimes you feel like, or you maybe realize that it's something that belongs to the past, right? That just like comes up because it's a trigger. And then you can actually go back and be like, okay, where does this belong to? And then you also, it gives you more understanding of yourself. And I feel like this is a big part of like the acceptance of ourselves, and how we then eventually dare to take off the mask, because you need to be able to like say yes to yourself, otherwise you will never be able to take it down. And that might sometimes be super hard, because I think we're also we do have perfectionism with ourselves, like the expectations we have for ourselves. That's maybe even the worst part, because I feel like you can get rid of people if you feel like, oh, this and that friend has expectations of me. It happened to me also in the past, when I felt like I cannot fulfill these expectations. You just love this certain version of me, and then like that friendship broke apart. But that allowed me to be more true to myself. But then if you have it with yourself, this is super hard, because you feel like I want to be like this, but I'm not. So how do you like get to be like not only okay, but like maybe start like loving the parts that you maybe don't like, because there's a huge difference.
Okay, let's go into expectations first a little bit more before I get into like how to overcome them and like start to love yourself more. So you also talked about expectations from other people. I think one thing that's also really important to understand is these expectations that other people have of us, they're often not objective. We think that other people expect this of us, while they often don't. So something I kind of like thought myself isn't the right thing, but I made myself do more, is ask people.
Confront them.
Not even confront them. Like, I know that it's probably a worry that I have. It's not something that they actually put on me. Like, oh, I feel like you're expecting this of me. Like, you can talk about it, and often you'll notice it's not true. So that's also why communication is so important in friendships and relationships and in everything. And I think it's also good to understand when it comes to expectations. Okay, this is gonna sound maybe a bit harsh, but I'm gonna explain it afterwards, or a bit black and white. Expectations lead to problems often, especially when they're not, well, not especially, when they're not met, it leads to problems. Because essentially a problem is just a difference between an expectation and reality. So sometimes we can fix reality. Like if you're not living up to an expectation, you can like work harder or do something different, and you can meet the expectation, the problem is gone. But in some cases we cannot change reality, so we change the expectation. And this is something that I almost always start out with my clients, because this is very, very important. Because very often these expectations are based on these fears that we have. So for example, we have an expectation: I always need to be a good friend. I always need to be happy, and I always need to make sure everybody feels good around me. I always have to take responsibility for everything. I always have to do stuff perfect. I cannot make mistakes. We have all these expectations, not because we find these things important, but because we feel like if we don't meet the expectations, again, we're not good enough, or some other belief. And this is creating a lot of problems in our life, especially if we put up standards that are like, these expectations are so high that we cannot meet them. We're just creating problems with these expectations. But we thought of them ourselves. They're not reality.
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
I always kind of compare this with a video game. Like if you can see these expectations as rules, rules of a game, and we have a certain goal. So for example, being good enough, that's like the most obvious one in this thing. If you were playing a video game with rules that you didn't like, you would throw the video game away. With our life, we have all these rules.
Yeah.
We're not enjoying it. It's not helping us, but we keep playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's easy to change the rules.
But you can
change the rules. But you can, because you made them up in the first place. They're not based on reality. They're based on experiences you had, but it doesn't mean these experiences are like objective things, and these expectations are actually there. Like they're there because you...
What if that is actually like, if someone would like ask, what is like the key to happiness? What if this is the key to happiness?
Yeah.
Like actually, because happiness is like not created by outside, it's literally created by inside. And like, if we don't create a beautiful world inside of us by adjusting our expectations and allowing us, I feel like it has a lot to do with allowance, like allowing us to be real us. And isn't that like maybe the key to like real happiness, when you can allow yourself, and you don't need like an allowance from outside, allow yourself to be your true self? And why shouldn't you like not love this? When you take away the expectations, I have to be like this and this and this, and then you actually do a reality check and be like, do I really want this? Does it really feel good to me? Or is it something that I think I need to do in order to whatever, like fulfill, like, or be this and that person? But like, what if all of that falls away?
Yeah.
And then like, maybe that's the key to happiness.
I think the key to happiness, like nobody really knows the key to happiness, but
This is so
I think
beautiful.
but like one of the most important things is to be okay with what is. The negative emotions, the good ones, like just be in the moment.
Neutral.
Like I'm reading this book, or actually I'm listening to it, and this guy, it's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
What? Power of?
The Power of Now.
Oh, sounds good.
He also says like problems only rise when we think about future. So when you're like, oh, I should be different, oh, this is gonna happen, but in the moment, like right now, name one problem you have right in this moment. None. When you're truly in the moment, there's no problems. When you just accept what is, there may be a situation to deal with, but there's never really a problem.
We always worry about like what we could, or it's like thinking about like what could I change about the past when we cannot change anything about the past, and like worrying about the future when the future isn't even here. And I feel like this is a big one, especially in our, so I don't know, but like this again, honestly, like it expanded my horizon so much when I went to Bali, or having a boyfriend from there, because he eventually like gives me access to all of that. But it's like they are way better in doing that than like us, our culture. And especially, I don't know how it is in the Netherlands, but like Switzerland, we are very, very safety driven, very security driven. So you cannot, like, you're not even allowed to get born if you don't have a health insurance. I'm not kidding. You cannot, you're not allowed to like get born
if you don't push you back in.
It's like, stay in there. It's like, we don't have a signed contract.
I don't think that's gonna work.
No, but like I'm not joking. Like you have to have health insurance. It's wild. And so like this was like one of the biggest fears of like people around me. And when I left to Bali and I would deregister in the first step, and then they were like, oh my God, but like then you cannot have like this and this and this and this insurance, because we even have insurances for insurances. It's like crazy. And it's not negative. I don't say this, because it also provides a lot of like safety, especially for like retirement age, like financial security and etc. But I think it's just wild. And this is like, because this is like, we're very future driven. We never live in the here and now. It's always about like I don't know, like saving everything, like saving money for if the case happens, is like doing this if the case happens. I'm not saying that like if it happens, if something happens, yes, of course, then you're happy you have like insurances and everything. But there is very little consciousness in our society for actually living in a moment and having the allowance to live in the moment, enjoy the moment. And I feel like the joy is a big one as well. So this is something I know I suffer from personally, and you get to see this as well. So for me, it's very easy to get trapped into what I call myself toxic productivity, because I'm like the perfect victim of this, and I put it upon myself. It's like nobody else, like, because I'm working for myself, but that makes it even worse, I guess, because when you're working for yourself, you can always do something, right?
I'm like to kind of tie this back to what we were talking about. Are you aware of any expectations that like underlay this?
Oh my God.
Towards yourself?
Yeah, like, so for me, I think because I think this is what like comes up for a lot of people, is for example, like when it comes to my job, it's you have to work very hard in order to be successsul. And this, I mean, you can't even say like this is true or not, because for some people this is true, for other people this is not true. The question is always like what it is for you, and it's like what is the amount? It's like is working hard like 8 hours a day, or is working hard 14 hours a day, and like what is the quality of the work, etc. But for me, it's like really easy to slip into this like disbalanced state of like I'm only like doing like gym and work, and so then I get really unhappy. I notice this, like I'm like unhappy, and like this is the point where I sometimes like hit rock bottom, where I'm like, okay, like now I hit rock bottom, now I need to change something. But it would like be actually probably the nicest thing for me if I could like manage my expectations, and then get into like the allowance of having more life to life, you know?
So, okay, maybe we can kind of like pull this like thread a little bit in the podcast. So there's like fears underneath this, and a question that I often ask myself, but also ask my clients to kind of find out what fear this is or what negative belief is like underneath that expectation, is like, what would you think of yourself when you don't work hard for a day? So if you take the full day off, you wouldn't go to the gym, you wouldn't do anything productive. What would you then think of yourself?
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, wow.
And be like, you can be mean. Like, this is not an objective thing of people that don't do something for a day, but this is your inner voice that's telling you something when you do this.
Okay, so for me, it will be like, I'm a bad coach, and I don't deserve to have success in my business because I'm being lazy. That will be it. I'm not good enough. Like, the consequence is you don't deserve success, and you're being lazy.
Yeah.
Why are you being lazy?
Yeah.
And it's something that I pride myself upon. I notice, like, because I know that, like, because throughout my whole life, or like for the longest time, it was like, wow, you're so disciplined, you work so hard. Like, ever since, like, when I started studying, because I studied and like part-time and I've worked, I trained for like competitions. I did like so much, like, for like years and years and years, and people were always like, how do you do that? I don't know how you manage your life. And I was so proud of this. And now this is like so deeply anchored in my confidence about myself, that I cannot allow myself to like break free from this every now and then to create the balance that I need, especially as a female.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if you don't, you feel like a worthless, lazy person.
Yeah.
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 And that is, actually, it's funny because I see this very often. I also see this in myself. It's often the people that have like the highest expectations of themselves, that always are proving themselves, that have very high perfectionism, that feel lazy the most. Because every time where they're not performing, they feel like they're lacking,
wasting,
or they're lazy, wasting time. And sometimes only that can already heal you a little bit. Like, knowing that when you feel, when you see this, like, it's not because you're lazy. It's because or maybe you are lazy. It's not a problem. Like, you can sometimes, like, sometimes you have to be lazy. Like, it's not even about like trying to tell yourself, no, I'm not lazy, because that often also makes it worse, because you're again like reaffirming the fact, like, I cannot be lazy, I cannot do this. It's like, yeah, I'm lazy right now. I'm just having a lazy day. Like, I'm such a lazy person. Wow. Like, that is actually, it's not even about running away from it again. Like, no, I'm just relaxing today so I can work harder today, so it's tomorrow, so it's necessary. You're just reaffirming the fact that you cannot be lazy.
Yeah, that's true. Because no, and that's like, I feel like also when we fall, for example, into like procrastination, like when it comes to work, right? Because I feel like we do all, at some point, we have this like threshold of like work we can do, our energy, we have a day, and then like this is like when you realize that because we can't be on like constantly. And so I feel like this is like something when we all tend to like fall into like procrastination. And for example, this can look like scrolling on social media, to like when you feel like and I know like this is something like happens to everyone, and it's like, oh shit, I know I should be doing, but then like this makes you feel so much better, and this like the dopamine hits you, and it's numbing, and it's like the dopamine hits, and like this at least makes me feel good, and then like this gets worse, what I need to do, and I think this is also a big part. Now what did I want to say?
I don't know. But I have this too, actually. Like, I would say, like, I still struggle with perfectionism. Definitely a lot less than I used to. But like, I also notice when I'm working on something and I'm like, this needs to be better, and I don't know how to do it better. When you have
this friction.
I also notice that usually when the friction comes, unconsciously I grab my phone and I'm like, I'm just distracting myself. And I'm like, wait, this is making me feel worse. And it's not even about like completely solving the problem. It's about recognizing it, and also allowing allowing yourself to sometimes mess up, and be like, oh wait, I'm doing it again. Like not like, oh fuck, I'm doing it again, I'm such a bad person. No, oh wait, I'm doing it again. What do I need right now? Like, what am I scared of? Like, what am I trying to avoid? And it's like this compassion that actually helps you move forward. And also to go back to like this, I was talking about maybe that's what we're coming from the game, like the video game. So this always is how our conversations go. Like 3 hours later, oh yeah, so the point I wanted to make. But we have these expectations, which are like rooted in fear, just like yours. Like I need to always work hard. I need to always be a good coach, to always be productive, effective. And it's because when I don't do these things, I feel like a lazy, wordless person. And once you see this, you can start to set different rules. So I always call this new standards. So we have these expectations, and then we're going to set a new standard. So for you, let's just take your example. What was the expectation again? I always have to work hard, or I always have to be productive?
It's, I think it's a lot around productivity and working hard. Yeah.
What is the impact of that expectation on your life?
That if I don't, so right now, and that for me, it's like when I don't have someone who balances me out from outside, I don't have the ability yet. I hope I will one day, to like to allow myself to balance myself from inside out and like actually feeling good about it. So when someone like pulls me out of it, for example, you, and you're like, no, like we're gonna do something else, like on the weekend, or like my boyfriend, he's like so healthy for me in that terms, right? That he's like really like this healthy balance for me that I need. Then I fall into this like my toxic productivity is literally like everything revolves around like steps and preparing food, gym, and work. Yeah, that's it. That's my life.
And what is the impact of this? Because this is like how it shows up in your life. What is the impact on you?
I get really unhappy because there is not much. I mean, I love my job and everything. I wouldn't do anything else, but still there's more to life than just work. And so I start to feel disbalanced. I feel unhappy, like really unhappy. And like from really inside out, like I feel this very deeply. And then I'm like, why is it? And it's like, because you don't have a lot of like other joys apart from like, because there is like, even though like gym is fun, but it's also a lot of like, it's hard. Work is fun, but it's also hard. Where are things that are maybe just fun? You know?
And it's probably also because no matter how hard you work, when your self-worth is dependent on it, it's never enough.
Yeah.
So even though you work really hard and it, like you like the job and you like to work out, you always feel like you're just lacking a bit. So it's never really fulfilling.
Yeah.
So, okay, you notice that this approach, it makes you feel drained, it makes you feel less happy, doesn't fulfill you as much as maybe it could have, because you do these things that you like, but they don't actually fulfill you. So that's now how it impacts you. What would you want? Like, how would you want the ideal situation to be?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I would want to use like the time of the day that I work to be like really efficient, rather than like just be like really efficient, but then also have time off where I allow myself to do other things that are just like fun, just good for the soul, good for the heart, joyful. And I think it would be this, and being able to create this like from inside out, and not needing someone to be like, can you stop working and then spend time with, of course. I think it's kind of that's what I would want for myself.
That's beautiful. Oh. Okay, we're gonna try together to like fit this into a new standard. So you first had the expectation, I need to work a lot of hours, I need to do a lot, always be productive, which is not helping you towards the life you want. We now know the life that you do want. I'm gonna ask you the question. Do you already like have a new standard in mind that you can kind of use as a guideline towards this? So I will give you an example to make it more clear. So the first expectation was I always have to work hard, work as many hours, always perform. The new expectation could be I focus on working effective when I work, and I make time every day, or like maybe you can even have like a set time, and at 7 I always stop and then I focus on myself and what I need. For example, this is like very this is just from the top of my mind, but like I especially want to hear something that feels good for you and that gives you direction to move where you want to go.
So I think a good one was when we decided to like Sunday I do not work. I think that was the first one for me. To like actually allow myself like at least one full day in the week when I don't work. The rest is a bit hard because I also do like the education, like the course. But I think like maybe define for myself that like I have, I don't know, like 3 like Sunday and like 2 or 3 evenings where I try not to.
Well, this sounds very promising. Try not to. It's not. This is not clear enough. This is not going to help you. Probably not going to help you enough.
Okay, so 3 is maybe a bit much. So 2 evenings when I stop at like.
We can also focus a little bit less on the exact. Yeah, I also use this in my example, so that's also my mistake. Maybe we can focus a little bit less on the exact implications on this. This can come later. But like the first expectation also wasn't like I work 8 hours a day, and it's like I expect this of myself. If I don't do it, I'm not good enough. But the new one can. Okay, let me think about something that can be.
Can it just be like when I decide not to work? I can still allow that myself and still like allow myself to feel good about it instead of feeling guilty, because it's a lot of guilt.
Yeah, that could be, or it's a little bit hard because you cannot really change how you feel. That just happens. So it has to be something that you can impact. So it could be something like I don't focus on being as productive each day. I focus on feeling
fulfilled.
Feeling. I focus on taking care of myself. Could also be one. I focus on being effective in my job while also taking care of myself. And
that's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah.
Because it allows both. Because I think my work actually never sucks. That is also a problem.
Yeah.
It's like I love what I'm doing, and so it's like this is like really. If it would suck, then I would be like after 8 hours, I would be like, oh fuck this shit.
Yeah.
But I'm not, because I love what I'm doing, and so this is like probably where it's like this gray area, right? It's like how much is too much, and how much is like, because you also need to allow yourself to do other stuff. Like for example, I mean, I came to Barcelona. I wanted to learn bachata, right? Have I done it so far? And did I do it?
No, because it's just for pleasure.
No,
and you don't have time for that.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah,
maybe that could be one.
Yeah.
That could
so
be one.
You have this new standard now. So I focus on when I work that I'm effective, but I also make time to take care of myself. And then you can start looking at, okay, how can I do this? What actions do I need to take? So starting bachata, having like 2 evenings a week where I don't work, for example. I don't work on Saturday. Like you can have these things. I also always like to say to like with my clients, think of like closing times, just like a store. Like, what's your closing time?
Oh yeah,
like
that's really
after
good.
8, I'm closed. I'm not working and not doing anything for somebody else. Like if you want to, yes, of course you can. But like I'm focusing on me. That's me time. Like you can then set these actions that guide you to it. But it's nice to have like this new standard for yourself, because it's something you can work towards. And you can also ask yourself at the end of the day, like, when I work, did I work effectively? And did I also take time today to actually take care of myself? No, actually, I feel drained. Like at 5, I was so done with everything, but I kept pushing myself because I didn't feel enough. Okay, I didn't hold myself to my new standard. That's okay, but it's also not okay because I don't want this anymore. So how can I change it tomorrow? And
doing these like check-ins with yourself, not only physically every morning when I take my weight and everything, and be like, did you do well with your nutrition and your mini cut, but also like how did you, or like, did you do well with your like emotional being? And yeah, that's actually a good one, I think. And maybe allowing myself to like, so what was also something else, like in regards to like work, because I thought like I always do like I'm like one person, I want to do like everything at the same time, like everything is equally important. But then like I was like no, and then like I learned from a friend of mine, she's doing this very successfully. So she implements, I don't know how she called it, but it was like, I forgot the term right now, but it was like she's doing like really like for like a certain amount of weeks, she really focuses on like one thing, and like she really pushes this. And so this is what I'm kind of like want to implement as well, and it's like maybe can help people in similar situations like me or us, because
I also struggle with these things still.
And it's like everything is equally important, and of course like we wear all the hats you can wear because we're working for ourselves, and it's like really like just like focus like on this, and that it's also like giving you the allowance to like not prioritize the other things as much, right? And so I feel like this could also be something that helps, because then you have like, because it goes back to like to the efficiency, right? Because then like when you're working, you're efficient, you're focused on what you wanted to focus, and then you also can like have more time outside of that and be like, hey, there's more to me as a human being. And I don't know why it's easier for me when I'm in a relation. Of course it's easier because someone else keeps me accountable, and my boyfriend is really, really good at that. He's like giving me shit when I work for too long.
And I also notice this in myself. Like sometimes when I'm also not doing something for the whole day that I see as like useful or productive, I can also still feel a bit bad about it. But then when I'm with another person, I have this less, because I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing something else that's also like, I'm building this relationship. This is also useful. So I think that's also important to say, like, even though I know a lot of the cause and the information surrounding this topic, it doesn't mean that I am always able to do this perfectly, because I'm also still human, and I also still have these fears and these emotions and these things. So
and challenges come up in life, and like give you something else that like, and that's I think it's also today's world, because that's what it says. Like, I mean, the thing is, I mean, this is just like it's I mean, then you have like work. You do like, for me it's like I do my education. I do like the gym, the mini cut. I have like 14K steps every day, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like, what, bitch, you want to add on bachata? What the fuck? It's like it's chill the fuck down, right? But I think it's like really important, if you like can stack your workload, then you also need to stack your life load. Kinda.
Probably it just doesn't always work all the time, but usually the more busy or the more pressure you put on yourself with work or something else, the more also you need to decompress yourself. And sometimes
that is the balance.
Sometimes you'll have periods where you just putting more and more pressure on yourself for a few weeks because something important is coming up, or like a exam week or whatever. That's okay. But when you notice this always happens in your life, it's going to drain you. And at one point, your body's going to be like, no, we're not going to do this. And then you're forced to like take time off.
But I think the learning, sprints, that was the term that she used. I think if you're like having exams, that's exactly that's a good example for like sprints. You're like, okay, for the next few weeks, whatever it is, like I'm going to do like a sprint. I'm fully focusing, sprinting through this episode. But this also prevents from like it taking forever. So if you like, maybe also it can be helpful for like people like us to like set deadlines for ourselves and be like,
for sure.
This and that project I want to. So for example, the like my further education that I do, I said I want to get it done before I return to Bali. And this actually is great for me, because otherwise there would be like more evenings where I would like be like, but I'm like, whatever, I'm doing something else, because it's not easy. It's hard, right? So, but that keeps myself in check. So maybe we also need to set like rules like this that like actually help us to then like work better with like our new standards.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you have the standard, you always want to look at like, how can I actually start implementing this? Because the standard is a bit more abstract usually, and then having these like more practical guidelines can help. And also what you said, like urgency usually tends to help.
Yeah.
Something that I also really like to use, I actually got this from my coach, is the Eisenhower matrix, and it works with 4, what's the word for it? Like 4 areas.
Yeah.
And it's divided into important, not important, urgent, not urgent. And you can kind of look at your tasks. So for example, with you have all these things that you feel like you need to do. You can start looking at each of these tasks. Is this task important? Okay, some will be important. Others maybe less. They're not that important for you at this point. So you put them in the not important thing, in the not important box. And then you're like, is it urgent or is it not urgent? Oh, it's not urgent, and it's also not important. Okay, probably I should drop this for now. Something else might be really important but not urgent. That's usually the stuff we put off. Okay, so I'm going to plan this. Like, I'm going to set a date in my agenda, then I'm going to do this. Something else can be important, but can be not important, but it's urgent. So for example, you're getting a call maybe from someone. It's not really important, but you kind of need to do it now. So for these things, or like maybe even cleaning your house, like it's urgent, you need to clean the house because it's a mess, but it's not that important to you. Then you can see if you can get help from someone. For example, some things will be important and they're urgent. These are the things you probably want to do today or do in a short time. And that way you can also get more grip or more control over these things. So I think that's always a nice tool to use.
That's really, really interesting. So there may be like different ways to approach eventually perfectionism. Well, for a person like me, it's about managing my own expectations, like my self-worth, my self-image, and like implementing strategies how to kind of deal with that, like from the problem perspective, which in my case would be like work that like takes over, and for others might be, what might it be for others?
Well, it's
more
very
on the
individual.
Emotional side.
It's very individual. Maybe it's also good, like there are roughly 3 forms of perfectionism. So we have self-oriented perfectionism, which is you put really high pressure on yourself. You have other-oriented perfectionism. I'm thinking of the third one. I don't know what I know. I forgot the term for it, but where you have really high expectations of other people, like you hold other people accountable to really high standards. And I don't know the term, but it's you feel like other people hold you to really high standards. So you feel a lot of pressure from the outside. And which, like, usually people with perfectionism will have all 3 a bit, or like have high expectations from themselves, and they also think other people expect this of them. So there are tests for this where you can see in which one you fit, or which one, like, maybe you fit in all 3, which will probably also help you understand it better. But I think it also always really helps to talk about it. So if you feel like other people hold you to really high expectations, like you feel like you're always coming short in your job, in your relationship and stuff, talk about it. Like, instead of always being like, oh, I think they don't like me anymore, I think they're gonna think I'm not good enough.
Anxiety rising.
Yeah, I actually once had this. Well, not once. It was a whole. This was a whole journey. When I started working as a personal trainer, I had no practical experience. I was so nervous. Like, the first half year for every personal training, I was nervous. And in the first month, my employer, he would like look like what's the word for it? Like, he would like look at how I was like giving the personal training. Supervise. And I got so nervous, so afraid that I did something wrong, even though I for sure was going to do stuff wrong because I didn't do it that much before. So it was super logical that I was going to make mistakes. But I was so scared of this. And I kept like thinking, oh my God, I hope he doesn't think I'm bad, or I hope he doesn't see me make a mistake or whatever. And the more I thought this, the more like scared I got, and the more the perfectionism took over. And then at one point I was like, okay, no, this actually is not working. So instead of trying to think like, okay, I hope he doesn't see, I hope this doesn't happen, I started asking like, oh wait, did you see stuff I could have done better? And sometimes he gave me feedback and I learned from it, and other times like, no, you did actually a really good job, and I got the confirmation, and I didn't have to rely on my own assumptions anymore. Like, because I asked and we talked about it, and I didn't have to hide it away. And that actually really helped feeling less anxious surrounding it. Yeah. And I think like this often helps, like checking your assumptions of the expectations other people have of you, and checking your assumptions about how well you're actually doing with other people that you're worried about. Also for yourself, I think actually doing the things you're scared of. So making the mistake, not going to the gym, not working for a day. Like, because the more we try to avoid these fears, the more we're just like confirming to our brain that they're true. And once we lean into them, so we make the mistake, we mess up, we overreact on something, we like break down in front of a friend, which we always try to keep the mask on with. And we see that it's actually okay, and we didn't die, and maybe they even respect us more for it, or maybe we got the support we needed. And that's when we learn, oh wait, it's okay if I'm not perfect. But you need to lean into it first.
And I think eventually, I mean, when it comes to other people, it's very often also, I think we said it in the beginning, is like, if the person doesn't react how they should react, like maybe it's not a person you want to have in your life. Yeah, so true. There's also like thinking about this when they like, and then like this eventually can be like very painful in the beginning. I think we have all been through that when we had to get rid of people in order to like keep growing, because they were just like accepting us under certain like expectations. And then it's like, but this is like not the true self. And also allow yourself to change your expectations, change your standards. And the people who love you for your true self, or like even whatever it is, like even an employer like supports you for your true self or whatever, they would be happy about your honesty, or like you asking or whatever. And the reality checks very often show that like we create a monster in ourselves. And that is like, it's certainly a really, really, really good tip.
But I think that's also really important what you just said, because you can work on yourself as much as you want, and like lean into these fears, like taking off the mask. But if you're in an environment that doesn't support it, you're never gonna get where you want to go. So like your environment is also really important to actually allow you to be yourself. So when you notice, I had this in the beginning, for example, when I started changing some lifestyle things, when I stopped drinking, when I started working out more, when I started eating different, I got like some resistance from my environment. So they're like, why are you not drinking? That's stupid. Just boring. Don't be so boring. And or like things you really like to talk about, or you find really interesting, and there's no room to talk about them with the people around you, or like you show an emotion, or you show a fear, or you talk about something that is difficult for you with someone, and they just don't understand, or they make you feel bad for it.
That's the thing. Like the not understanding is like one thing, but like making you feel bad for it, this is like the bad thing, I think.
Yeah, you don't always have to understand the other person, but it's nice when you feel like the other person tries to understand and doesn't judge you for it. And when you're in an environment that doesn't do this, then working harder on this doesn't always help. Sometimes you need to find an environment where you can like do this, and where you or like friends that allow you to be yourself, that are more in line with who you want to be and what you find important. Like also like this is also a really good metaphor for this. So for example, if you have a flower.
No, I thought exactly about this.
Well, you can
I had it in my mind.
You can tell.
God, that was so good. No, I was like, fuck. What was it like? If the flower is like not growing, like
okay, I will tell it.
It's the soil. I was like, I had this in my mind, but this is great.
Yeah.
So
So if you have a flower, there's nothing wrong with the flower, but you put it in an environment where the soil doesn't have like any nutrients, where there's no sun, where there's no water, the flower is not gonna grow. It's not gonna thrive. It's not gonna bloom. When you take that exact flower, nothing changed about the flower. You put it in a different environment where there is like nutrition in the soil, where there is enough sunlight, where there is enough water. The flower will bloom. And nothing changed about the flower.
And it would probably not, the flower would probably not judge itself for like not growing.
Well, I hope not. No, but it's what we often do. We're in an environment that doesn't support us, and we're like, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not in the right environment.
It doesn't support our personal growth or whatever. Yeah. And then like if this matches with your own like high standards, like that's really. And then you need to break free, and that can be like really like painful at first, but then like really freeing.
Yeah, there's this quote that I love. It's like, you'll never find peace in an environment you're not supposed to be in. So
good.
Yeah, but it's like it works two ways. Like, I think you first kind of have to start showing yourself in an environment you're in, trying to set boundaries, communicate, check these assumptions, do the stuff that you like. Even though people around you may judge or not understand. And that only when you start being the person that you are, you value, only then these people that are also like this will come to you. So that can result in a period where you don't feel understood and you stand out a bit more in your old environment. But you kind of have to do this to attract the people and the environment where you do want to be. So, but that's like, it's not easy. Like, it may sound like we're saying like, yeah, this is how it goes. Okay, obviously it's not that simple also, but it's also not that easy because it's scary. Like, for me, this period was so scary. Like, and you feel insecure a lot because you're showing stuff and you're vulnerable. But now I can tell you, I don't have a lot of fear anymore about surrounding being vulnerable or being myself. And when I am in an environment where I'm not like accepted or where people like judge me for it, I don't feel like there's something wrong with me anymore, because I also have this environment where I can be myself and the people around me actually like and like appreciate me for it. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is just not my environment anymore. But in the beginning, when you don't have that proof that there's also an environment where you are accepted for who you are, it's just scary because you're like, yeah, I'm going to end up with like nobody. Yeah. But it doesn't work like that, especially not in today's age.
True. So, okay, so I think like we're already recording for quite some time.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I would say, so like to kind of close it, I think the fear of judgment of others is like one of the main fears people have these days. So if someone would like
always has been the biggest fear.
So if someone would approach you and be like, what is the first step that I can like take in order to like manage this fear or whatever, what would you tell a person apart from like joining your coaching?
I would say look around you towards the people you feel like will be accepting when you share, and then start sharing. Share how you feel, share what you're struggling with, maybe even things that like start small, or like I did, I asked, instead of like being like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, what could I do better? Like, what did you see? Like these small things, they're gonna feel scary, but like take small steps, and the more you do this, the more you're going to learn, oh, it's okay, and it's actually really nice, and my relationships got better when I actually show myself. But start small and start with people that you actually trust and that you feel like will accept it.
So beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having you on. It was amazing. I mean, we know we could go on for hours, which we probably do apart from like off camera. But okay, so if anyone is like super interested and wants to learn more about you and your work and whatever you're doing, where do people find you?
Well, I'm on everything basically, but on Instagram you can find me at Sanne van Gurp, which is like,
okay, I will
just
check her.
It's a Dutch name, so
just check the show notes. Jesus Christ.
And TikTok's the same, Instagram, YouTube is also the same, so yeah,
awesome.
you can find me everywhere.
Awesome. I'll tag all the channels. Yes. And then you can check her out, because obviously she knows a lot about what we've been talking about for the last, I don't know how long, probably hour or so. Yeah. So thank you so much. I loved it.
Yeah, and I also really loved it. So thank you for having me.
I'm pretty sure we will have like a third one.
That would be nice.
See ya.
See ya.
Awesome.
Oh, this is really good.
That was so good.
That was so interesting.
Yeah.